Hey everybody, Ronaldo Waffman here with Gear It First. We are now on our, I want to say our sixth night of our kick-ass summer giveaway. I am here with the super cool, awesome high five president of the American Disc Jockey Association, Dr.
Hey,
Drax.
how are you guys?
Drax, in a nutshell, if you could because there's a lot of guys here that are not just new to mobile DJing, but DJing in general, as we've been learning through these shows. Tell them a little bit about what you do and what the ADJA does to help their business.
My role as president of ADJA is to spread the gospel of the American Disc Jockey Association, which is we help DJs build and grow their business. We help them with business coaching. If you follow any of my conversations with John Young on Disc Jockey News TV, you'll see talking about business plans, talking about how you build a business the right way to make it successful. We have a gazillion benefits, discounts on anything and everything you could ever hope to buy. That really funds our ability to provide education, to support things like Midwest DJs Live, ARM DJs, DJ Times, Mobile Beat, half a dozen other small regional elements, as well as support things like Wedding MBA and a number of other places that we participate to represent DJs to the events industry, such as NACE, ALIA, MPI, and ABC, etc. So with that, that's kind of what our mission is. Our goal is to make you more successful.
So, in the wedding world, a lot of people see almost DJs, like the bottom of the totem pole. And, it was said several years ago that it was because there's not enough lobbying for DJs at these trade shows. So is that kind of sort of what you've been doing, showing the wedding MBA, hey, look, we are an industry now, you know?
Absolutely. The end problem, though, comes about is we can lobby till the cows come home. This is a big problem. Everybody wants to push the blame onto someone else, but an organization can lobby other industry professionals. But in the end of the day, when they go back to their market, if they don't find a modest number of professionals in their market that are living up to the standards we provide
Mm-hmm.
and are actually being a great disc jockey, then they go, yeah, well, not in my market. I've still got guys at $200, and trust me, I don't care what you charge as long as a written business plan has defined it, because I know when that does, you won't be charging $200.
Exactly.
But so the problem comes about is DJs are always looking for a silver bullet. They're looking for someone else to solve the bigger global problem that can only be reached by themselves. An example is carpenters. People talk a lot about, well, we need licensing, we need certification. I'll tell you straight out, ask your next 5 brides what NACE means, what CPCE means. Ask what ABC is. I will tell you, I'll bet you most of them on that last one will tell you it's a television network.
Yeah, or
They,
alcohol.
yeah. Well, they won't even probably even connect that because that would be ATF, alcohol,
Oh,
tobacco, and
I was
firearms.
thinking ABC liquor stores.
Oh, there you go. Well, so there you have it, right? So the end of the day,
Yeah,
and ABC has existed longer than all the DJ associations, has more members and more money. And if they've not got a national message that's resonating, it's unlikely that we're going to be able to craft something that becomes instantly identifiable with every consumer uh, on the in the United States. But the reality happens is when all of our members have our logo on their website and they're talking about they're a member of the professional trade association of their industry, now it starts to help the credibility push out, because in the end, a consumer has to be touched at least 12 times with a message before that message starts to become self-aware or self-evident.
yep.
So until that happens, we can do Facebook ads till the cows come home. We can do all kinds of things, but in the end, it will not have the impact that 10,000 members would have.
Absolutely. And it's even tougher in our industry because, brides are a one time consumer unless they get divorced
Yep.
multiple times. And even then, they may have forgotten everything they learned the first time. And then for a lot of you DJs that are just tuning in, one of the things that I've noticed about the ADJA, especially in the last few years, is that you've really gone into almost like the power of group buy, where
Yeah,
you have gotten amazing discounts, even right down to health insurance, right?
absolutely. We have full coverage health insurance, the only association for DJs to really bring full coverage health care.
I think the only wedding related association that brings, because I don't think ABC or NACE or anything have that. That one
I
was,
don't think so either. And to give you an idea, Arnaldo, I spent 20 years of my prior life as an aerospace engineer,
hmm
a rocket scientist, if you will, of sorts. I wanted to bring to the DJ community the same level of benefits that I enjoyed in the aerospace industry, which is group buying programs, things like healthcare. We have medical, dental, vision, life, and disability insurance. We have great programs for property insurance, liability insurance. We also have tremendous benefit programs. We have industry specific benefit programs on gear, technology. We also have 300,000 discounts on consumables, lunches, pizza, movie tickets, concert tickets, resort vacations, buy a car, mortgage your house. You name it, we've got
yeah.
value for you.
So,
And that's to bring up the kind of benefits comparable to other real legitimate industries.
and real quick, before we start with the meaty part of the show, how much does it cost a year to join the ADJA?
It's really very affordable. It's 199 bucks, 200.
That's $16.66 a month, DJs. Actually, 67 because you have a repeating number. There's some math
Yep.
for all y'all. That's almost the same price as web hosting.
Yep. In fact, we give you free web hosting as a member of ADJA. That's over $100 value. We save you 60 to $150 on music and video from promo only. So when you look at those things and then the liability insurance I mentioned, the discount on that's 90 bucks.
Oh, that's right.
So when you look at those three things that every DJ needs, music or videos, web hosting, and liability insurance, your membership is not only free, there's about $100 back in your pocket.
Yeah, no kidding. So I'm glad you said liability insurance because that's why I brought you on board. Um,
Sure.
for those of you guys that don't understand what's going on and a lot of my recent rants lately, I actually had the pleasure of talking to the Florida Association of Student Councils. All the schools in Florida were pretty much there, and I did a seminar on making school dances great again. No pun intended. Um, but one of the
You're
things
just
that
trying to be Trump.
I know, right? Yeah, I just went up all the bad DJs, locked them up. But I told the schools, I'm like, listen, just because the DJ says they have insurance doesn't mean that it's going to cover what they're bringing out. And these insurance companies do not have the time to sit there and ask the DJ, are you rigging? Are you hanging stuff? Are you setting up staging? So when I really pushed this show, I pushed basically saying to DJs, you're wrong about DJ insurance. I have seen too many guys assuming the wrong thing about DJ insurance or that liability insurance will cover theft. Since you do a lot of work with RV Nuccio for the ADJA, I figure you'd be a great resource to not just talk about what DJ insurance is, what rigging insurance is, and when somebody needs to go from one to the other, but more importantly, this new habit that not just in Florida, because I've seen it happen in Florida, but I'm seeing it nationwide, of venues asking DJs that their insurance pretty much needs to make them completely immune to anything that can happen, which can be disastrous if something bad does happen. And it can be very expensive even to get those papers, written up. So let's talk about liability insurance for DJs. And it's hard to speak for all insurance companies, but in the case of, RV Nuccio, what does their liability insurance actually cover for the DJ?
Well, just to clarify, RV Nuccio is the broker that we use for our policy with Fireman's Fund. It's one of the
Okay.
three largest carriers on the planet. Now, liability insurance, let's break it down to parts. Think of liability insurance like liability insurance on your car. It doesn't protect your equipment, just like liability on your car doesn't protect your car. It protects you from being sued if, through the course of driving your car or performing your DJ services, someone is injured or killed or sustains a loss.
Yeah.
Now, I'm going to probably make some people unhappy. If you don't have a rigging cert, you've got no business flying anything above anybody's head. Period. End of story. Done. Finito.
No.
Because without it, that's how you see these goofy pictures you see on Facebook and other places where they've got a 30-foot span of truss and it literally is like a smile because they've got so much weight suspended for the span. They don't know how to do the math to find out when they do, and it's only held together with pins and cotter keys, or sometimes bolts if you're using plate-based truss.
Mm-hmm.
And when you reach the shear point of those bolts, it doesn't happen like crack. It goes crack, done. And guess what happens? Things fall at an acceleration of 32 feet per second.
Mm-hmm.
Do the math. If it's 20 feet in the air, it's going to hit the ground in a half a second. And that's going to be on top of whoever's there. They're not going to have run, get out of the way. If it falls, you might have more time from the arc of it falling, but guess what happens then? It's picking up speed at
Exactly.
32 feet per second, and anybody it hits is going to be seriously injured or killed.
And
Now let this soak in. Seriously injured or killed.
yeah.
And anything you've ever owned in your entire life is gone if you're not insured. You will be broke, bankrupt. You'll never get out of it. Your life will be destroyed.
Well,
Now,
even if you got out of it, your reputation, I mean, that's...
absolutely. You're never going to do another school event if you get kids hurt. Now, here's the axiom point that you also have to think about.
Mm-hmm.
Let's put rigging aside because rigging should only be done by professionals that have a rigger's ticket. That means they are approved by the American Society of Stagehands and Theatrical Professionals, that they're certified as a rigger. They know how to do it. They know what the load should be.
Hundreds of hours. And that's
Hundreds of hours of classes.
Yep.
Don't rig over people's heads without it. If you want to rig stuff behind you, that's your own deal. But don't rig anything above people's heads or that could fall into the crowd without a rigging cert.
Well,
Because you're not going to get insurance from any insurance company that provides insurance for rigging companies, production companies, unless you have a rigging cert. They're going to ask,
exactly.
has this person got a certified rigger's ticket?
Well, and not even just like traditional, rigging from, let's say, the rafters at a gym or the venue or hotel. But, let's say, for example, I've seen DJs set up, hundreds of feet of trussing. It's all floor standing. They're flying speakers. And then they show up with bare bottom DJ insurance policy. Now, this speaker was hung with non-rated aircraft safety cables. This isn't hypothetical. I mean, this is stuff I've seen in my local market.
Sure.
Let's say
I've
one of
seen it
those,
everywhere.
let's say one of those speakers snaps. What is the DJ insurance going to say when the client says, listen, I want my gym floor replaced or hotel floor replaced because your speaker that was hung from trussing immediately fell down?
They're going to cover it. They're going to pay for it, and that client will be dropped. Because when they find that the client was executing things improperly, they'll cover it because they have a covenant contract to protect the client.
Mm-hmm.
They'll cover it, but then they'll drop them because they are a risk. They're a high loss risk because they engage in risky behavior. So getting to DJs, we have a liability policy that's $175 a year for our members for $1 million per incident, $2 million aggregate. $1 million, you pretty much got to kill people. And I don't mean that to be cavalier.
No,
but that's a lot. You'll find some venues wanting $5 million and $10 million. That's just ridiculous because that's more wanting you to be responsible for things you don't have to be. By the way, if they ask you to take complete responsibility for an event held in their facility, run, Forrest.
Oh, yeah. And let's talk about that last part.
Okay, we'll talk about it later.
Yeah, because that's a really good one, and I want to save that one for last because it doesn't matter what insurance company you're with, it's a bad idea.
It's a bad idea. So now what we cover is anything a typical mobile DJ does, which includes uplighting when they're being the DJ, photo booth when they're being the DJ. We even have photo booth insurance for when they're not being the DJ and they're running their photo booth separately at another venue. Liability protects you against losses. You carve up the door coming into the facility.
Mm-hmm.
You you drop something and damage the floor. I will tell every DJ there is no real reason to do horizontal trussing unless you've got rigging certs. And here's why. I use totems. Why do I use totems? I use totems with heavy base plates. The only way they're coming over is if somebody grabs a hold of it and pulls it over. Yes, it's still a liability, but now you can reasonably convey that it only came over because a student willfully grabbed onto the truss and pulled it over. Now, if you have a 10-foot stick of truss or 2 5s, you don't put 300 pounds of lights on top of the truss. Why? Because you got a 10-foot stick, probably a 50-pound base plate. You put 300 feet, you have a large moment arm that if that was moving, it could easily come over. But I've put pretty big movers on top of truss and clamped other fixtures on the bars and been fine. If you want to fly speakers, now this is an important point. You can only fly speakers that the manufacturer has put fly points into the cabinet.
Can you repeat that one more time? Because I really want to bring that into people's heads because they don't understand. You cannot fly speakers by the handles. So say that one more time. So we definitely have this written on right now.
You cannot fly speakers by the handles.
Yep.
Speakers that are intended to be flown all have what's called fly points. You'll notice they look like a nut or a threaded insert buried into the structure of the housing. That's a fly point. That means that entire cabinet has been engineered to transfer its loads to the fly points. That's the only way you can fly it. You have to use, again, rigor approved. There's an ASTM specification for the types of bolts, the types of couplings, the types of chains, or the types of cables that can be used, and they have to be tested. You just can't go to Home Depot and buy some aircraft wire and some ferrules and crimp it yourself. Because if you don't have the crimping tool to provide the proper crimp pressure, there's no guarantee of what's called a hard weld or a cold weld, which makes that so that cable is not going to come out and spurl out of your eyelet.
Exactly.
So to understand, the bottom line is you only fly from fly points, period. And there'll be fly points on the top and there's fly points on the bottom. Why? Because this is how they make line arrays out of common cabinets. Many common cabinets nowadays are designed such to be floor wedge monitors and also to be flown in a line array configuration.
Yeah.
You'll see that in the documentation. And the line array panels bolt into the fly points. The fly points are the only mechanically integrous place from which you should attach anything to your speaker. Now, if you put your speaker on a stand and you want to put a little bar with a couple pin spots, cool. Do it with bolts and clamps on the fly points. But again, don't put a lot of weight up there because we all know how your speaker is on a tripod. It's got a little play in the hole. You don't want it tipping.
Exactly. So a couple of things that you said that I found really interesting. And again, every insurance is different, but there are some insurance companies that, you know, if it's DJ insurance and they're expecting, you know, maybe some lighting for your photo booth, but let's say I'm bringing, you know, my floor standing setup, speaker falls and hits the floor. Well, they'll say, well, you never told us you were doing that. You would need, it's not rigging insurance, but it's like electrical apparatus, something. Basically saying you're hanging electrical fixtures over people's heads, even though you're not rigging it from the rafters. And my personal insurance company, because I have a local brokerage, because I have staging and everything else, they said, if you don't report these things, we won't cover you. We're not going to lose money because of you. So it's really interesting that you're saying that, you know, your insurance company does do that. And that's a good selling point for DJs to understand that if you do mess up, you're not going to go broke, which could happen with a local company if you don't know what you're doing.
Their judgment would be if what you executed was reasonable and prudent or reasonable and customary, if it was common. Now, again, as I indicated, if you had a speaker on an ultimate support stand and you put so much crap on top of it, you exceeded the support stand rating, you'd get covered and then you'd get dropped because you violated safety protocols that you as the operator should know about. And you never want to do things to be cheap. You want to do things to do them correctly, because when you do it correctly, not only does it look better, it doesn't look all kind of garage bandish. It looks professional,
No,
and that's what
absolutely.
you want your look to be. And you want it to be such that, trust me, the last thing you want to do is be the guy getting a phone call the Monday after the party where an accident happened, and they're telling you somebody went to the hospital and they're in a coma, or they're brain dead, their spinal cord severed and they're paralyzed
Yep.
because you were too stupid to follow good processes, or you were too cheap to use good processes. So what you want to think about, see, I don't worry about dinging the floor. I mean, I do.
Well, yeah.
I don't want to ding anyone's property, because that's a bad reputation point you're going to have with that venue. But in the end, the thing that you don't want to have happen is you don't want to have the situation that you injure a person. And so
Mm-hmm.
you want to operate your business in a method that's cost effective, but also has safety as your number one concern. Because I have people tell me that they don't need insurance because I don't own much. And I go, I do this part time. I go, but that means you have a day job. And if you're married and you have a house, it means your house will be attached.
Yep.
And you won't get out of this. You
Uh,
will not get out of it. And at the very least, you're going to spend $5,000 to $10,000 in real money with a lawyer to defend yourself to the point that a judge throws a case out. Because here's how this works: Arnaldo goes to a party. He provides great entertainment at the party. Two guys get in a bar fight. They mix it up. One guy goes to the hospital because the guy stomped his butt, kicked him in the head. Guess what? They don't just sue the dude. They sue the bar,
yep.
alcohol provider. They sue the venue. They sue the caterer. They sue the photographer, the
And the DJ.
videographer, the DJ, the cake baker, the tuxedo company, anybody that had any exposure involvement with that event. And you can say, yeah, but they won't win in court. You're right, they won't. But you'll spend 10 grand to the point the judge will release you from the case. Because the only way you get released from a case is pay them money, because they'll typically say, we feel bad about this. If you just give us 10 grand, we'll drop you from the case. Or you'll spend 10 grand with a lawyer who will protect you from further liability.
Absolutely. And
Or you go ahead.
I was gonna say, and I don't want to go too much into tax law, but a lot of DJs may not realize that a lot of them are, sole ops, or even some are sole corps. And once the company's being sued, if there's not enough money, they may not realize they can lose their house, depending on
Yeah.
how they have their business filed. I've seen it happen before, and it can get ugly pretty fast. But you mentioned that RV Nuccio would cover them and then dump them. And somebody just sent me a photo of a DJ hanging just a small little plastic, almost like an ADJ jelly type light, from the ceiling
Uh-huh.
fan. So now, let's say the insurance company's like, no, you're an idiot. We're going to cover you, but we're dropping you. And this guy tries to apply for another insurance company. Can the fact that he was dropped for being a high risk, is it like car insurance where it's basically going to follow
Sure.
them? So there's a good chance this DJ could
Because
never be insured again for a long time.
because on every insurance company, they're going to ask you, have you had any prior losses? There you go. Yeah, I beamed somebody on the head with a jelly par. Uh, what was the settlement? $100,000. They're going to probably go next. And we've done very well to provide super affordable insurance for mobile DJs. We cover the majority of things mobile DJs do at a very affordable price. And insurance companies are not trying to be mean, but when you talk about policies with hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars of exposure, and there's probably in the United States only 10 or 15, maybe 20,000 DJs have any kind of liability with anybody, which means that's broken up with a lot of these carriers. So no one carrier, it's not like car insurance where Allstate can give accident forgiveness because they've got 20 million people paying them for auto insurance. So a loss is distributed over a much, much broader premium profile. So I don't want to see people get dropped. I'd rather see people run their business in the same manner they would to protect themselves.
Yep.
If you don't have liability insurance, man, you should be the most careful people on the planet because you have everything to lose. And as Arnaldo mentioned, in the case of a major lawsuit, they'll go through everything you've done with a fine-tooth comb, and you may not withstand the scrutiny of your corporate organization.
Yep.
Simply having an LLC or an S corp may not be sufficient. If they find you have misfiled once, you're probably in trouble.
Well, but
So
even if you're super careful, and you said this, even if you're super careful, all it takes is one idiot to get drunk and get in a fight in a parking lot, and you can still be sued. So you could be DJing in a glass bubble, not leaving just a club DJ, and unless somebody's actually covering you, if you're not covering yourself, yeah, anybody could see you at any point.
exactly, that's the point I was illustrating, is you can be sued regardless of your actual fault or responsibility. If you fail to do something and somebody's hurt, you will be sued.
Yep.
If you did something improperly or incorrectly and somebody's hurt, you will be sued, or you'll be approached for a settlement.
So
Those are givens. But right now, the culture is, it's not my fault if I get hurt, even if I was drunk. Another example is a woman that was at a wedding, and she had a snootful. She decided to get up on a high boy. For those of you who don't know, that's the high cocktail table. It's about 2 feet in diameter, and shake her hoochie coochie. Well, she fell off, landed on the floor, wrists first, shattering her wrists. She's a stenographer. She felt it was the DJ's fault because he played music that made her want to be on a table and do whatever. He never said get on a table. He never said do anything risky. He was still sued. Now, no, they didn't prevail, but luckily for him, he had great insurance.
yeah.
However, the insurance spent $90,000 defending him.
Wow. And
Think about that. That's what you got to think about, is for every case that comes up, there's money the insurance company is going to spend
oh yeah.
right from the get-go to defend it, because they have two options. They either defend it or they settle it or they pay the claim. Those are the three options that exist, and most will choose to defend it. And there are times it irritates me where they will go, the defense of the case would be 5 times the cost to settle the case.
Yeah.
They will choose expediency and settle, because that way there's still insurance tomorrow versus, I'm sorry, your policy is canceled.
Exactly. And, you know, I actually went through some similar. One of my school events, I don't know if you know this, but I do school dances.
Of course.
Yeah, I kind of keep quiet about that.
4 school dances.
Yeah, exactly. So I actually had one of my crews, I don't know, it was the craziest thing. I thought they were banging the truss down on the gym floor, which I would have killed them. But it turns out that the sub, there was a little piece of metal from the corner of our Yorkville sub that was pushing down. So as the sub was vibrating, it walked. And it made a gash, about maybe an 10-inch gash across a brand new gym floor. It was going to be
That would suck.
about
Yorkville would be getting a call from me saying, I'm not paying for this. You're paying for that.
Oh yeah, believe me, that's a whole different discussion on that one. But I mean, to be fair, it is an older sub. But yeah, that's been one of the issues with those metal pieces, and one of the reasons why
I wouldn't care.
Yeah.
I wouldn't care if they made it so in any fashion. If you didn't alter it, modify it, if in any fashion it had an exposed metal plate or piece that contacts the floor, because every sub doesn't sit flat on the wood on the floor. They're all sitting on some sort of rubberized feet or rubberized corner, because otherwise they will totally just get up and dance. They'll be out in the middle of the dance floor.
Exactly, and that was the thing. So in the time that I could have debated that with Yorkville, the school's like, no, we have a big tournament coming up. We need this, done ASAP. And they weren't mad or anything, like, we know crap happens, but more importantly, we know you have good insurance, because they ask me for it twice a year.
Sure.
And I was like, crap, my insurance company's going to raise my premiums, and they weren't. They were very easy to work with. They got this done. Not only did they get it done in a week, where they had a company come in and take care of it and reimburse it, but it worked as a good public relations. I don't want to say public relations stunt, but it was good publicity for us because they
Sure.
told the other schools, "Hey, listen, there's another DJ that didn't have insurance. There was a problem where they ruined something outside in the courtyard. I'm not sure what the heck happened, but they said, look, we actually just dealt with another company. They didn't have insurance. We're still fighting for it. You got this done in less than a couple of weeks." I'm like, yeah, that's why I charge more because I have to have this expensive insurance for
Yep.
DJ
Well, and
services, photos,
that's typically what
staging.
would happen is your insurance would cover it, and then they would subrogate against Yorkville for a manufacturer's defect that was, in essence, creating an unsafe situation.
Exactly. But I
Because,
mean,
like, what if this unsafe metal piece could carve a big gouge in a floor? Well, what's it going to do to one of your employees' hands when they tip it over and pick it up?
no kidding.
It
So,
cuts their hand open.
so that kind of leads me to the next part because one of the things that when I first had just DJ insurance, and again, I'm different than most DJs because of all the stuff that we offer. But when I had DJ insurance, one of the first things that they would ask whenever we added a service, like, is your DJ going to be there? So you mentioned that you have photo booth insurance when the DJ's not there. So let's say this guy here just has DJ insurance, and he sends a photo booth guy to do one event. He's at his other event. Photo booth topples and hits somebody. Is the DJ insurance going to cover him?
No, nope, not at all.
But he told the venue, I have DJ insurance, and they saw that.
Well, he's going to be found as a liar because he's told right up front that his photo booth insurance is not in effect. Now, again, the insurance may say, versus going to court and going through the whole process, they may choose to settle it and then litigate him personally and cancel him for bad faith, essentially under a morality clause, which says he knew he shouldn't have done it and he did it anyway, because it's clearly in the policy. It clearly details what you can do, what you can't do.
Mm-hmm.
And by doing it, especially when it's in the policy narrative as you buy, it clearly asks, are you wanting to operate a photo booth separate of DJing? And you say no, well, then you're willfully negligent. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. So does this apply to if a DJ has DJ insurance and then just sets up, let's say, uplighting at a venue, and the uplighting burns somebody's hand because they're using old uplighting, or something happens, there's a manufacturer defect or whatever happens, but the DJ wasn't there. So does that mean that if you have DJ insurance, the DJ needs to be there as part of the service?
Needs to be there, especially with uplighting. You can't do uplighting as a DJ of drop it and leave and come back, because that's not a DJ service. It's a rental service.
Mm-hmm.
And now you're subject to the laws that apply to property rental. And it's a different kind of policy. One we don't carry because most DJs should not be engaged in property rental. Why? Is because the liability is so much higher.
Of course. And
Because
taxes, too.
when I put that light there and I walk away, three things can happen. One, somebody can steal it. Two, somebody can set the venue on fire in the case of if it's an old-fashioned facility. Three, what happens if it's a battery uplight and the battery shorts and starts to burn and catches drapes on fire because somebody didn't like the uplight up against the brick where it was and moves it over underneath a drape because it was bothering their eyes, and you're not there to see it? That's a problem.
Yep.
So, again, if you're the DJ there, it's covered, because the first thing I would always keeping track of the room is, why do my uplights not look symmetrical now? And I'd be going over and finding that out. And secondly, I would just not use any heat source light anywhere in a room. But in the case of a battery explosion, there's a lot of batteries from China that are not very good. So this is another reason to buy good quality uplights that are designed in America. They may be fabricated in China, but their quality assurance is handled by U.S. domestic personnel, and they're burned in the United States before they ever ship out to you, the consumer, which means you have some level of confidence that uplight is ran for 200 hours or 300 hours continuously and running on multiple charge cycles, to know that there's no infant mortality or primary mortal failure of the device. It's gone through that process and it should not give you anything but great service.
Exactly. And judging by the chat, there's a lot of DJs that just realized that all the times they've done uplighting rental and pipe and drape rental, they have not been covered, especially pipe and drape. That's a very, very scary business to get into. I do it and
Well,
I
and there's no
hate it.
reason you should consider that DJ insurance will cover pipe and drape. That's not DJing.
Exactly.
That's
So,
decorator. That's being a decorator.
look,
And we do have production insurance, but it's not $175. It's the kind that covers people that want to do pipe and drape, that want to do rigging.
yeah, because
But
I
uplight
was gonna say, why am I
rentals
paying
are
three?
not covered under production insurance.
I was gonna say I'm paying $3,000 to $5,000 a year on insurance. You mean I could have gotten everything for 175?
For most of what you do, you could have probably done that,
Oh
Arnaldo.
yeah.
But when you took your school dances to flying large truss rigs,
Mm-hmm.
spiders, other things, no, you kind of need production insurance, and you have to be vetted that you've got the rigging training. But I want to make sure even production insurance doesn't cover uplight rental.
Exactly.
Big production companies have a separate policy or a rider to their policy that allows them to rent equipment.
Eh,
And when they rent equipment, they pay a given amount of insurance for every $1,000 that they own towards liability for rental property.
Exactly.
And if you're doing pipe and drape, a couple things you got to think about pipe and drape. If you're not buying your pipe and drape from a U.S. approved, fire tested drapery company, you may be signing. Oh my gosh!
Oh yeah. We have the
I mean,
fire
all you
marshal
gotta
will
think
actually
is,
try to set things on fire to make sure it's fire retardant.
exactly, and so just because you can get cheap drapes from China, again, those drapes may not be fire rated. They may not even be fire retardant. Uh, the same with photo booth backdrops.
Mm-hmm.
A photo booth backdrop should be fire retardant. It might melt, but it shouldn't, because if it's nylon or polyester, but it should not
Catch on fire.
it shouldn't produce a flame capable to ignite something else. So these are things you want to think about. You want to not be stupid, because being stupid can ruin your life.
Yep.
Not only will it put you out of business, it can indebt you forever. And bankruptcy will not be a solution in that kind of a personal injury case.
So real quick, let's talk about stupid. One of the things that I've always pushed on seminars and everything else is that, well, we all like to be creative. Do it yourself can be dangerous, and taking an item out of its unintended use, you may not be covered for. And I'm talking beyond, first of all, if DJs that are making trussing out of PVC, I'm pretty sure there's no insurance policy that covers
Nope.
homemade trussing.
There is no, again, trussing has to be made according to ASTM standards. This is not something you take to Bob's welding shop.
But my friend is certified in welding.
That doesn't matter. He can have a welding ticket, but ASTM welding has to do more than just the welds. It's the pipe, it's the design construction, the load rating, and then the weld quality has to be. And he could probably do great welds, but in the end, it's not ASTM rated welding because it's not been certed and tested.
But I'm only hanging a few lights.
Well, and again, if you're hanging those few lights over people, and that trust fails,
Mm-hmm.
bad are you. I mean, here's the biggest thing that really worries the crap out of me. Even if you have ASTM rated trussing and you're flying it over a crowd, even though you're not a rigger, how many people do actually puts safety cables on their fixtures from the fixture to the trussing, securing it such that if the mechanism that mounts the fixture to the truss fails, what keeps it? Here's an example. You have a moving yoke.
Yeah.
What happens if the yoke fails and the light, which is now on the yoke, the joint fails and it falls apart and it wants to fall out?
Or a lens falls out.
Or a lens falls out. If you don't have a lens falling out, you can't do a whole lot about.
Yeah.
But, again, the way you do something about that is no fixture hangs until you fully examined it and made sure it's in good repair and everything's appropriate. I always do that before it's hung, not after the event. After the event is just noticing for signs of wear and tear, and I have orange tape that goes on it and goes on whatever case it's in, because that indicates that device needs to be maintained and serviced and looked at before it ever goes to a job again. But when it goes up, you need to inspect every single part of the fixture. Lens is in, it's in tight. Uh, the head is actually seems solid, and that there's a safety cable from the head to the fixture itself and or to the truss.
Yeah.
And that doesn't in any way limit the ability of the fixture to do a lot of things. Yes, it will eliminating the moving yoke going 360 degrees around and around and around, because eventually at some point you're going to run up against the length of the cable. But a good lighting designer never has to do that. They can go, and they have enough safety cable that they can go 720 and then go back the other way. Now, the other element that you want on that is a length that limits the drop to 12 inches or less. And what that does is that means there's no acceleration. This mass, this weight, has very little time to build up momentum. So a very small safety cable, something not much thicker than this, but it's made out of steel, will securely hold that fixture in place against a drop. But again, there are built and tested safety cables.
Yeah.
You don't make them from stuff at Home Depot. You buy the ones that have been tested and are manufactured and tested by the company that produced your lights. They all sell safety cables for their fixtures.
Yeah.
If they don't, they're crap fixtures.
So, real quick, we're going to kind of blaze through a couple of these questions, or the next one, because then we're going to go into the non-contributory. I love that word.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so let's talk about $1 million, $2 million aggregate. What is aggregate?
Aggregate means total. So, for example, 1 million per incident, 2 million aggregate means at any one event, any one incident, you have $1 million coverage. If that expands out to a secondary incident, you would be covered up to $2 million.
Okay. So if, for example, let's say, God forbid, a speaker falls and kills 2 people, and you get sued twice, each lawsuit wins $1 million, you've reached your aggregate.
No, the total allowed for that incident would be $1 million, because the speaker falling is the incident.
Oh, okay.
So the 2 million would be a speaker fell over here, and then 2 days later, before any of this was adjudicated, another speaker falls and kills someone else. You would be capped at total. And if you had a third one fall, you'd be out on your own.
Gotcha. So basically, once you reach that aggregate, yeah, like you said, you're out on your own. Is there a statute of limitations? Meaning, if God forbid I did have, I mean, honestly, if I killed somebody, I think I'm out of the business, honestly. But let's say that happens, and then okay, I've got $1 million left.
People have to report their claims in a reasonable period of time. I got to tell you, if you lose $1 million, you'll probably not get the opportunity to burn a second million.
Yeah, that sounds about
right.
You're
probably going to get, well, you're not probably, you will be dropped. So the issue to consider, again, comes back to why be stupid, be safe always. Safety first. Plan to be safe, safe to be planning. And so with it, you never want to assume you've got more coverage than you do. Exactly. You've got $1 million. That's a lot. That is killing somebody.
Pretty much. And real quick, somebody just posted that Amazon selling 110-pound low duty. No, stop. Do not buy things that you're going to use to save your business from the cheapest possible source possible. If you can get a 10-pack of 110-pound rated safety cables for less than $20, Drax, correct me if I'm wrong here. Yeah, there's no way in hell. Guys, remember that when a cable says, when it says 30 pounds, you got to think, if it's a 30-pound light and it falls, when it grabs it, it didn't weigh 30 pounds.
No, 32 feet per second squared is the velocity at which it's going to fall.
Yep.
Its net mass weight will be its weight times its velocity. That will be the total free fall weight. Here's a clue. You want great cables, Ben Stowe, NLFX. He will sell you properly rated safety cables at a great price. And if you're an ADJA member, you'll get them 10% off his already low prices. And the reason I say, and there's a few other
Yeah.
retailers, but buy from people that are in the business. Ben is in the theatrical stage business. So he doesn't just sell stuff to DJs. He's selling stuff to touring companies.
Yep.
Therefore, everything he sells has to be tour grade. It has to be ASTM rated. It has to be up to par all the way along the line.
The best tip, I think, that if anything you're going to get out of this, besides you need to have insurance no matter what you do, is anything that involves hanging things.
Yep.
Buy it from somebody that hangs things for a living, and you're
Yep.
good. And a lot of people don't realize that these people that are selling you these items also have their own insurance. For example, with Global Trust, well, why don't they sell stands that goes to higher than 16 feet? Because you have to have a different insurance when you're selling stands. Global Trust, yes, they have insurance. Other trusting companies should have insurance. Anytime you buy a stand, anytime you buy staging, all these companies have insurance because this is a very dangerous business that we're in.
Well, they know they'll get sued if a stand collapses.
Yep.
They know they're going to be sued.
Yeah.
And
whether it's their fault or not.
Exactly. And they limit their liability to saying at 16 feet, if it collapses and falls forward, this is the maximum momentum we could expect to see happen.
Exactly.
So again, they've done all the math and science to calculate their risk, and they know that stand, that 16-foot stand rated at 300 pounds, will actually probably support a lot more than that. But that's the rated weight, because that's the rate that they want you putting on it. They want to have a big safety margin in that truss stand or that jack stand before. Essentially, they don't want to see you running in the top half of the margin to where any slight difference in manufacturing can become a critical problem. They want you in the fat safe zone.
Exactly. So, real quick, before we go, because we've got actually, this has been a very busy chat. This has been an incredible chat on the side here. Before we get to some of the Q&As, let's talk about, and Marvin already asked, what exactly are blanket primary and non-contributory and blanket waiver of subrogation? I have blanket additional insured rider with my liability, but my agent asked if I needed the others. And there are venues that are now pretty much asking for that. Drax, why is that?
Tell them to bite you.
Why? What is it and why?
Because when you do that, if you sign a non-contributory agreement, you're basically saying you're responsible for everything. If somebody gets food poisoning and dies, you're responsible. Because when they have you as an addition, you have listed them as an additional insured, and they want language that says you're responsible for non-contributory damages. What that means is they want you to be responsible for things you didn't contribute to happening. In a nutshell, that means it wasn't my fault. I had nothing to do with it, but you can go ahead and get my insurance because I was dumb enough to sign this.
So a guy walks in, falls on somebody.
Yeah, go ahead, Arnold.
So somebody walks in, trips over somebody's throw up. You as a DJ are liable because you signed that.
Because you signed it, you agreed to be responsible for non-contributory damages, which means you didn't fail to do it, and you didn't do it. It means it just happened and it wasn't your fault. You had no responsibility. It's called blame share. Blame share. A room captain leaves ice on the floor. Some lady slips and falls, fractures a hip. You are now on the hook for all or a big part of it because you have a non-contributory clause acceptance. Our insurance will not allow you to do that.
So
basically, you try to put any non-contributory responsibility, ours will not let you do it. And and why aren't they? Because they're keeping you safe.
Yeah.
Keeping your insurance in effect, because you're a small business. And a venue is a multi-million-dollar venue. And they want you to be responsible for things that happen in their venue that you didn't do. Let's take it a step further. You're at a Hilton. You're at a hotel.
Mm-hmm.
You're in ballroom A. Big party's going on. Everything in your party is great. Your party ends and is gone and over. Somebody else's party guest trips in the lobby and breaks their arm
Yeah.
or breaks their neck, guess what? They have you as a non-contributory insured, which means you become responsible for something not only that you aren't responsible for, but something that didn't even happen at your event. That's insanity. So you don't want to agree to these things. No event for even $5,000 is worth taking that kind of liability, because you're now taking on responsibility for the entirety of the event. I told a venue recently, sure, I'll be happy to do that as soon as you sign me a check for all of the revenue coming from this event. What? Yeah, I want all the money you're going to get. I want all the incoming revenue from the event, because then I'll go out and buy insurance that will cover it, which would be event production insurance, as if I rented the hall and I rented it to the bride or whoever. Sure, because I'll make some money, because I'll buy an event policy and I'll be covered and I'll make money. But you never want to take these, period. These blanket non-contributories are bad and they're just stupid. And a lot of schools are trying to do it because they're looking for people to blame, because schools are fundamentally broke. And
Which is
so they're
funny.
looking to
I
offload your responsibility or their
Yeah.
responsibility to you.
Which is funny. I actually have not had this with schools. I've had it with Lowe's Hotels. Actually, it's a national
Yep.
thing. Lowe's Hotels, I think, started this years ago.
Yep.
So if you're looking at not just Lowe's, but you're talking anything Lowe's owns, which are several hotels, it is a very, very bad trend that's about to happen. Hopefully, it disappears fairly quickly.
Well, it really only reflects one thing. They think they have better lawyers than most of the event professionals do.
Well, because they usually
Luckily, if you're
do.
an ADJ member, you have access to legal advice. You
Exactly.
can, you can send in your questions to legal@adja.org and you'll get it. But as of now, for non-contributory, you got it right here. I told you no, period, no, 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 no. You talk to any good insurance agent. Call up your homeowner's insurance agent and ask him if you were going to have a party at a friend's house and he wanted you to sign non-contributory responsibility, if that'd be a good idea.
And with my insurance company, I had one venue, and this was before I really knew the dangers of it. So I went over to the insurance company, like, yeah, we'll cover it, but you're gonna basically want to purchase an entire separate policy, because if
Yep.
you get affected, we have to drop you from this one. And it wasn't a couple $100. It was a
No.
four-digit number for that event. Now, in that case, as a business person, I mean, yeah, I kind of was stuck in having to go for it. But no one better. Like, I sat down with the venue and was like, listen, this is a bad idea. And this isn't just a bad idea for you guys, for the venue, but you're going to get blacklisted by every wedding coordinator, because no wedding coordinator is going to sign this thing you're wanting wedding coordinators to sign.
Yep.
So,
And you can make a financial decision. If you're doing a big prom and your ticket is $10,000 and a single day non-contributory policy is going to cost you 2,500, you can look at that 10 grand and say, okay, do I have a 5 grand margin? So I'm still seeing 25. But if you're looking at it and saying, gee, I don't have that kind of margin. If I pay 25 for that insurance,
exactly.
I'm going to make 500 or $1,000. The only way you'd want to do it is if that was a strength realignment with that specific school, keeping someone else from getting into a block booking arrangement you might have with that school.
Exactly.
But ultimately, Arnaldo's correct. Those venues are going to be in deep crap, because all it takes is, gee, Sally, I just got a notice from your venue, and they want me to accept responsibility for people falling in the parking lot, people getting drunk and overdosing on alcohol. I really can't do that for your wedding for a fee of, $2,000. If you want to
4,500 now.
well, or 10,000, you want to rewrite your contract.
Exactly.
Then we can look at that. But otherwise, I would honestly, Sally, suggest you contact the venue and tell them that if they don't remove it, you will seriously look into breaking your contract, because they're asking unreasonable expectations from your hired customers, and they're placing you in financial jeopardy, because now you have a contract with them that they cannot execute the services, but you'll still be responsible for paying that DJ.
Exactly. And
But now, as a DJ, there is a point you have to make sure you've mitigated completely, done everything you can to mitigate that bride's damages. You can't just say, "Hey, money for me. I got an out because of a non-contributory." No, because they'll sue you and they'll take you to court, and the judge
yep,
will go, "What did you do to mitigate their damages after you found out about this?"
exactly.
You
Well,
don't say, "I called every client that ever called me for that date. I looked at taking 2 middle school dances to try to make up the revenue. And I did everything I could. I tried to get them another venue. I would try to literally get them another venue and that didn't have a non-contributory,
uh,
because in the end, all the other event professionals, the photographer, the videographer, the cake baker, they're all going to say, "This is Looney Tunes. We're not going to do this."
exactly. And you mentioned the margins, but the one thing the DJs really have to think about is that, especially with weddings, it's not just about the margin. If God forbid somebody does get hurt and it was not by your fault, people don't know that. All they read in the newspaper is local DJ got sued for somebody splitting their head open. Well, what the hell did this
Yep.
DJ do? And we all know how great the media is about really getting into those details. They don't. So now you've got this big black rain
Hell,
cloud over your business. You may not recover.
hell, the media doesn't even really get into the factual details regarding the
Anything.
president and the
Yeah.
government, let alone what some DJ did out in Timbuktu. I
Exactly.
mean, let's
So
be serious. They're going to just make the select, just like the national media does with various political things. They're going to make the most salacious story out of that incident that they possibly can, because they
yep,
want to make people read their paper, read their blog, watch their TV station. They'll
exactly.
have to dispel the truth at some point, but they will do their level-headed best. An example is ABC News, whatever came to Wedding MBA a few years ago, and you've probably all seen the thing, Wedding Confidential.
Hmm.
What you don't know is I was interviewed for over 30 minutes by their people. They didn't air 1 second because what I told them didn't fit the preconceived, pre-written narrative that they showed up in Las Vegas looking to film footage that would fit the
Exactly.
story they'd already written. So what you want to think about is, don't be stupid. Don't do things that expose you. Non-contributories are a huge exposure. You don't want to do it. And you always want to make sure, set your lights up behind you. If you're going to put horizontal trussing, put it behind you. It doesn't hurt a thing for it to be there. But what you do is you create a trip hazard from tripods is pushed back now 10 feet.
Yep.
You now create as much physical barrier, because guess what? If somebody trips on a tripod behind you, you have a reasonable expectation to say that's a work zone, and I had done reasonable things to block them from accessing that. Does that make
Exactly.
sense?
Absolutely. So real quick, so we don't bleed. I mean, I'm sure we're going to go a little bit of OT, but so we don't bleed too much into John's show. Let's blaze through a couple of these FAQs. There's some really good questions,
Sure.
and then we're going to do the giveaway, and we want to talk obviously what the prize is, because it's more than just a membership. They're getting a crap load of stuff because of that
Absolutely.
membership.
They're getting
So
a free 1-year membership to the national organization of ADJA. That includes free web hosting, discounts on music with promo only,
absolutely.
access to discounts on medical, dental, vision, life, disability, access to discounts on gear, access to the 300,000 other discounts and programs we talked about earlier on tonight.
Yep.
It's literally, if you use the programs, it's literally going to put $600 in your pocket.
Exactly. So real quick, we'll go over that in just a moment. Let's go through these questions. Somebody asked that they currently have $1 million in liability and $10,000 in equipment coverage. I'm not sure if they're talking about getting stolen or
That
what.
would be property coverage.
And yeah, they're paying about $40 a month. Is that fair? I mean, it's obviously different from state to state, but
Well, here's the deal. $40 a month is going to be how much over the course of a year? It's going to be about $600.
exactly. Well, let's see.
Uh,
40 times 12, because I'm terrible with month to month. So 480 if they're
480
actually
bucks.
paying 400 or $40.
$480. If you're a member of ADJA, the liability will cost you $175,
Mm-hmm.
and the property coverage will cost you $100. So your insurance would be $275,
Which is $205 less.
exactly, which would basically pay for your membership in ADJA with what you saved on that one thing. So what you're paying right now would give you an ADJA membership free, with free web hosting, which is valued at over $100, discounts on music valued at 60 to 150 bucks. All of those now are in the black, savings, money back in your pocket off what you just saved off insurance by being an ADJA member. So I would
Exactly.
say it's not a bad price in the open market, but the other thing you have to look at is who's the carrier. There's a lot of people, schlocky companies that are not really great carriers selling DJ insurance. Well, there's a lot of them, but there's a number that are being written as what's called an inland marine policy. For what people don't know is that's boat insurance.
Yeah.
So do you own a boat? See, what happens is a lot of brokers and agents will try to write things in a way to skirt the underwriting policies that the carrier has.
Exactly.
Put you on the books because they get paid commission for putting you on the books. With our case with Fireman's Fund, this is our policy. Yes, our broker is paid, but they also understand if that policy goes away, their entire income stream goes away. So they're not going to put people on the books that are high risk, that are stupid, that lie. So I would tell you, you want to really look at that and make sure you've got a AAA rated carrier, you've got a strong carrier.
Yeah. So, and actually, now that you mentioned that, two questions. We'll kind of put them into one. Is there blanket equipment coverage, and is there a deductible that applies per claim?
There is a deductible per claim. Typically, you can set that deductible. I believe it starts at $250, goes up to $500 to $1,000. Again, it's entirely your selection. Property coverage is $10 per thousand. You don't have to detail a list of all the stuff you have. But if you have a loss, you got to prove you own it. I mean, that just seems right.
Yeah.
Correct? You got to be able to prove you own it. Here's an example. Another company had an issue with a DJ that said he had a Martin line array stolen. Well, these things tick out for about $35,000. His website shows he does parties for $350 and nowhere to be found on any of his material is there anything mentioning a Martin line array or pictures of said. Nah, he wasn't covered. There's people that have had their music library, their entire library. This is when we used CDs, stolen 3 years in a row. And in the fourth year, they become a four-system multi-op company. You don't have to be a rocket scientist to figure out what went on there.
Exactly. Although you are a rocket scientist, so I mean that.
Yeah, but the morality clause will kick in and you'll be canceled and everybody will know that you're a thief.
And you could go to jail, too.
And you can go to jail.
So
in the end, just be honest with your insurance company. They're not out trying to hose you. They're just trying to take care of you, give you good coverage at a very affordable price, and give you the tools that you can need to be properly insured. We allow you to create additional insured certificates anytime, 24/7, 365. No faxing it in, no emailing and requesting it. Anytime you want, you log into your policy and generate the additional insured certificate or the ACOIs.
exactly.
Which means you can come home at 2 in the morning on Friday from out having a party with your friends and find a phone message from the Hilton saying, we don't have proof of insurance or an additional insured certificate from you for the wedding tomorrow. If you have anybody's carrier that doesn't provide instant ACOIs or COIs, you're toast. You're done because you're not going to go get the broker to go to the office on Saturday and fix it.
Yep.
If you're with us, it's really simple. You go to your computer, type, log in, type, add it, print it, email it, save a PDF, print a PDF, put it in your gig bag, away you go, and your life goes on.
Exactly.
That's value you want to have. Because we all get busy, and sometimes we meant to do something and we didn't do it. This is a way that we protect DJs.
Or the venue asks you for it at the last minute. I had a venue that lost my insurance info. We need your insurance. It's 6 o'clock on a Saturday. Are you freaking serious? Thank God, for what you mentioned, being able to get it out right then and there. Especially when they want, their own verbiage. Like they actually want their name, not a generic COI.
They want to say the Ritz-Carlton, the Tampa, Orlando, Embassy Suites, They want their name, their address, and that's all right because that's really how we want. Actually, if you're going to do an ACOI, we want that this specific property is
Mm-hmm.
covered on this specific date for these specific hours.
Exactly.
Don't leave that open.
Yeah.
Regardless what they say on that ACOI, say from 6 p.m. to 1 a.m.
Yep.
That's the period that you're extending that, not 24 hours from the time you walk in till the time you leave. End of
Exactly.
story.
Real quick, if they have the right DJ insurance and they were the DJ for that event, but the lights cause somebody to have a seizure and just drop on the floor, does the DJ insurance cover seizures from awesome light
Sure.
shows? All right, that was an easy one.
Absolutely. It protects you from any liability. Of course, they're going to want to find out, did the person know they had epilepsy or a tendency for seizures from lights? If they did, then they share some of the responsibility
Of course.
for their impairment. If they didn't, then it's always protected and covered. You're protected and covered absolutely all the time, every time.
So
But the issue is they do want to know is like, okay, well, if you're an epileptic and you're going to a high school prom,
the hell are you doing
uh,
there?
well, the thing is, what they would do is if you're an epileptic and the DJ might use strobes, you'd go up to the DJ and say, hey, I'm here for my prom. I just want you to know I'm epileptic and pretty sensitive to light. I'm going to try to be in the back of the room, but I'd appreciate you not using the strobes too much
Yeah.
or at all, because if a teen asked me that, strobes would be off.
Okay,
Period.
so let me throw a monkey wrench into this because you said they have to be the DJ for the event versus a rental. But let's say multi-op. He's DJing one event and then his guy's doing lighting for the other. The lighting at this event, where he's not the DJ, causes the epileptic, or let's say just any kind of insurance.
Well, I
claim
wouldn't
has to be
care
done.
because if he's not DJing the party with the lighting, he's not covered unless he has
Okay,
production
so even
insurance.
that's it. So even if and I wanted to push that. So even if it's not, just because it's not a rental, even if you have a tech there running the stuff, if you're not the DJ, it is no longer a DJ show.
Well, yeah, you have to be the DJ of record at the party. You can't just bring a speaker. One guy says, "Oh, well, I'll just bring an 8-inch, Sound Lab speaker like you'd have on your computer
Exactly.
and have music
So
playing." I said, "No, you kind of got to be in the analysis. You could do that, but they're going to look at it and say, "Can we see the contract?"
Oh, and that's the other one.
The client's contract. They're going to get the client's contract and they're going to say, "Sally, who did you hire as your DJ?" And the minute they say brand X, you're done.
Okay, I'm glad you said that because I'm very guilty of this. So we do a lot of free stuff for like the Florida Association of Student Councils, or we have lunch
Sure.
jams, or stuff that we do for promotion. And my CFO every time was like, "You better have a contract, even if it's a free event, because if we ever have to
Yes.
use the insurance, they're going to ask for your contract." So somebody asked, "What if it's a free event?" I told them, "Cost doesn't matter, but you still have to have a contract, right? So even if you don't need
Yep.
your services to relay it for life, you're still going to get sued if something happens.
Exactly.
You
And
need a
you want to have a
contract."
contract because it's the document that binds why your professional company is there.
Awesome.
And you want to have the contract because it clearly defines your relationship with that nonprofit or that free event.
Mm-hmm.
I've done a number of free events, but everybody, and don't take the stupid idea of pay me $500 and I'll give it back as a donation, because that's illegal. It's illegal, illegal, illegal. No ifs, no ands, no buts, no exceptions. It's illegal. If you do a charity event, you do it because you believe in the charity, period. Now, some charities do pay, and be apprised of the ones that do, because you don't want to be doing a free event for a charity that pays unless you want to donate to it because it's something you believe
Exactly. Exactly. Too many people are trying to skirt that. We should do a show on taxes later on, because I think that's another big topic. And then last one, is there a certification or list of certifications that we should look for in equipment? And this I know can go on, but I'm guessing, do insurance companies, do they care? If you have trusting, are they going to say, is it TUV rated? If you are
in.
doing
If you
uplights,
have a
is it
problem,
UL?
when you get your insurance, no. If you have a loss, they're going to look at that and they're going to ask, why did you buy trussing that is not tested? Because technically, that garbage should not even land on U.S. soil, because technically U.S. custom law requires items to be checked, inspected, and to be stamped. It's kind of like the UL approved. If a device is going to be in the United States, it is supposed to be CE, UL, TUV approved.
Yep.
Those are three marks. CE is for Canada, ULs are typically America, TUV is Europe and other places. But there are companies that are selling stuff in that has not been tested. These are the ones you read online that catch fire, that fail, that parts that, I mean, I know one that was a scanner that was going back and forth, and all of a sudden the mirror flies off. Imagine what you think when a couple ounce mirror is launched across the room 50 feet
Yeah,
at
no
speed.
kidding. And
At speed. Imagine what happens if that hits a human.
yeah, that's
Boom, cuts, it breaks, glass shatters in their eyes. My gosh, this is so
it.
you want to have products from reputable companies. It doesn't matter where they're made. What matters is who's responsible for quality assurance to make sure that the product really does meet the U.S. safety standards.
Okay, and correct me if I'm wrong, but there was a group a while back of do-it-yourself DJs, and one guy started cutting he cut all the cables in his lights because he was found a way to make them wireless. Forget the whole LiPo argument aside. If you guys have no idea what I'm talking about, LiPo batteries are dangerous. Don't mess with them. But unless you know what you're doing. But basically, cut all the cables. And I told him, like, you can't do that. He goes, well, why? I'm like,
No,
once you cut it, you lose the UL rating. Well, it's not going to matter. I'm going to make sure nothing catches on fire. First of all, you can't guarantee that. But even if the light doesn't catch on fire, let's say somebody throws a cigarette and that sets something on fire, the firemen are still going to inspect everything, and you're still going to have to file an insurance claim if somebody decides to sue you. If the insurance company sees that you use these lights, but the fire report says, well, no, the cables were cut, they had a homemade battery, you're not covered, right?
no, you're not covered. Well, again, they would probably cover it, and then you'd be dropped and you'd be blacklisted with every carrier, and you'd never have insurance. Here's the thing. As I said earlier, I spent a great period of my life working in aerospace. I'm a degreed engineer, and here's the thing. You can never, never 100% absolutely guarantee something will not catch fire. The only condition you can do that in is when it's off and it doesn't have a battery or any kind of device that will store electricity or
Exactly.
power. I give you an example. We built a circuit, we ran it, we tested it, we turned it off, we left. We came back the next morning, huge black spot on the desk where this part was being tested.
Mm-hmm.
One of the capacitors that in a bank that had stored a lot of energy shorted, causing a cascade short of all those caps, and it caused a fire.
Mm-hmm.
Luckily, it was put out because we were in a Halon room that basically it protects those kind of things. But the point being, our job should have been to have gone through and shorted out all those caps so there was no stored charge.
Yeah.
You can never, ever, ever, it's like the old Bond thing, never say never. You can never, ever 100% rule out any possible thing. The best thing you can do is minimize your risk, mitigate your own risk by putting your truss behind you so that you're 8 to 10 feet in front of your trussing.
Mm-hmm.
Put your speakers. I don't like tripods for speakers anymore because music without a sub sucks anyway. And I don't care how small the party is, it should have a sub. And a sub does two things. It allows me to use a vertical pole, put the top on the vertical pole. There's now not a trip hazard really of any substance. A, the sound is better, and B, I have a cleaner looking system. I'm not doing goofy things like scrimming them up and putting lights underneath them so that I expect Pocahontas to come out at some point. The whole tripod TP with the lights underneath it, I just think is ugly. I think the best thing we can do is make our gear heard and not seen. Make our lights provide effects, but largely not be seen.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if you're doing a prom, there is a certain perspective
Of
that
course.
you want them to see this massive trust structure because it creates part of the event feel. But ultimately, what you really want is them to experience the lights. Uh, but in some cases, you want this big nightclubish feel where the truss is an integral part of the decor.
Exactly. And one of the things that I wanted to mention, I just thought about it now, is, I mean, the best advice that I could really give anybody is don't hide anything from your insurance company. I tell my insurance company everything that we do, and a lot of times they say, no, you can't do that. Staging is one of them. My insurance will cover everything except staging. And they said, it's not that you have to get somebody else for staging. If you get staging, we dump you entirely, and you got to go through a whole different company for staging.
And you know
It's
why that is?
well, because again, it's you get sued for everything. They're gonna hit up every insurance company, and that's what they told me. It's like,
No. Staging has the highest rate
oh,
of
well, yes,
incident because even a 2 foot stage, especially if it's dark, people will fall off the back, they'll fall off the front. That's why if you go to any event that has a stage, you see they typically will have a handrail on both sides of the stairs going up and down
yep,
because it's incredibly risky business being on stage. Oh, and guess what? If the stage isn't built correctly, you don't have certified riggers building this, the stage hands building the stage, and it's not assembled correctly. Guess what happens when you got 8 or 10 or 20 people up there and the stage collapses?
exactly.
Lots of personal injury.
And even if I have a different insurance company for just the staging, my other insurance company for the lighting said no, we could still be affected. Like you
No,
have
of
to go.
course, and that they don't even want to be in the same universe with you
Yep.
because again, I went into this a long time ago because I'd built medical and military devices that were still in the marketplace. Companies would say, "We don't want to insure you as a DJ because you have extended exposure. Somebody could come after us because you have these medical devices and military devices out there for which you could be responsible." I said, "Yes, but that's when I went through and said, but I've got this corporation organized for that and this corporation organized for that. They would have to pierce this corporate veil and this corporate veil to get to this company's corporate veil to where the insurance was for the DJ." They still didn't want to do it.
Exactly. So,
So don't be dishonest
mhm.
because the second your carrier that loves you finds out you've been dishonest, you will be dumped with prejudice right then, right there.
Oh yeah,
Period. They
and
won't wait for a loss. When they find you've lied, you'll be canceled and you won't get your premium back because they will say, "This client lied to us. He obtained insurance under false pretext.
mhm.
We're keeping the balance of his premium as mitigated losses for anything that could come up for the next 10 years out of that, and we claim it as unrecoverable monies to him." They
Exactly.
claim it as earned monies because you had extended losses that weren't there.
And oh my god. Oh, and somebody asked a question, but it's more of a workman's comp. DJs or guys that run your own companies, if you have W-4 employees, which in my opinion you should versus subcontracting, you better have workman's comp, whatever way you can. I can tell you this from personal experience. We've had to use workman's comp. One of my guys, I don't want to go too much because of HIPAA laws, but he had a pre-existing condition. He got injured on the job. He did not want to sue us because he even said, hey, this was something that already happened before. His insurance company said, don't care. Happened on the job, or we're going after the workman's comp. And they
Absolutely.
won. Both of us said, no, we didn't tell him to do this that led to this happening. It was
Yep.
just a freak accident. Doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter.
Doesn't
Here's something
matter.
for all you people that are running multi-system companies with 1099 contractors.
Oh,
If
yes,
your
my favorite part. Go ahead. Sorry.
if your contract with them in any way infringes their ability to do events for other people or for themselves at any time, that if in any way infringes their ability to promote and advertise themselves at any time, they're not a contractor, they're an employee. If they are not free to do the job however they see fit, not how you see fit,
Mm-hmm.
they're not a contractor, they're an employee. If they don't provide all their own tools, they're not a contractor, they're an employee. So what you need to think about is You got a happy crew of contractors. They start to realize you're doing events for 1,400, they're getting 400, you're keeping $1,000. You're thinking good deal. And they decide, I think I want to be the company. So they call the state labor board and say, I've been working for this company for X number of years. He's been paying me as a contractor, but I really feel I am an employee. If you go to irs.gov, it'll run you through the drill of the questions that define whether a person is an employee or a contractor.
Yep.
90% of the people using DJs as contractors cannot meet the requirement to actually use them as contractors. They're really employees. And what that means is when the IRS finds out about it, because the State Department of Labor will notify the IRS, you will now be paying back workers' comp insurance not claims, but penalties for not having workers' comp.
Payroll insurance.
You'll be paying
or payroll taxes.
Payroll taxes. Not just the 7.5% you would as the employer. You'll pay 15%. You'll pay the employee's half, and you'll pay your half.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the bad side about it, all of that is going to come with penalties and interest. So start imagining this could really easily, and I know a company in Southern California that had 10 people. It burgeoned out to be over $500,000.
Oh, wow.
$500,000 is the IRS portion alone.
And
so now you think about your little operation in Timbuk nowhere. Not only will they crush you, they will now lien your house. This is the IRS. They don't play nice.
Oh, yeah. And if they do happen to fall under contract as an actual subcontractor, your insurance doesn't cover them. They have to have their own.
That's correct. And you can't provide workers' comp for contractors.
Exactly.
They need to have their own medical insurance, and one of the things I tell because we have members that do this particular thing, I say, look, that's fine. Require them to provide all their own music, make sure they provide their own equipment, make sure that they provide their own liability insurance, and you ask for an additional certificate of insurance for the event they do for you.
Mm-hmm.
Only contract them one event at a time. Do not put their pictures and bios up on your website, because that's further proof that you're treating them as an employee.
Exactly.
And they show up, they get a sheet that says where to go, the timeline of what stuff happens, and they do the event the way they see fit. You either like what they do and continue to contract them, or you decide if you want to give direction. Anytime you give direction of any substance, they're an employee,
yep.
Period. So with that, you want to not do that. But if you want to be skirting the 1099 thing, I think it's totally stupid, because for what little it costs you to get paychecks or QuickBooks payroll, it's nothing compared to how it keeps you on the right side of the law.
Exactly.
And
my favorite part is, well, they're good friends of mine. They would never sue me.
Right. Until they think that they can now start making $30,000, $40,000 a year immediately, and you're out of business because you're dealing with all of this legal nonsense.
Exactly.
And in the end, here's the other thing. As an employee, you can have non-compete clauses. You can have functions that restrain their ability to be a DJ for a given period of time after they leave your employ. You have rights to control what they do, to tell them how to do it so that it meets your expectation. These things are valuable, and for what little it costs, it's money well spent.
Exactly.
Very well spent. You look at any of the big successful multi-op companies, Mike Walter and others, they're all employees.
Yep.
They're part-time employees, but they're employees.
Exactly. So real quick, let's go ahead, because we're definitely bleeding into John's show, but John will forgive me this time.
I hope so.
So again, the winner gets the 1-year membership to ADJA National, which is different in chapter. But guys, find your local chapter and definitely talk to them as well. Totally worth it. So you get website hosting. So get rid of your web host, because this one's specifically made for DJs. And less crap for you guys. I believe it comes with a WordPress install too, right? So if the DJs are WordPress
comes with
based.
WordPress, comes with anything and everything they need. The WordPress is not a big deal because you can install WordPress, but we use cPanel, the world's largest hosting platform. They can directly use it, know how to use it. We even have templates, Flash templates. We have HTML templates, and WordPress. We don't provide templates because, frankly, the internet is littered with billions of great templates at free or very little fee.
And the winner, since you're an ADJA member, if they go to trade shows, I know you've worked with a lot of trade shows for
Yep.
DJs to get them discounts as well.
Discounts on their passes to most major trade shows. Tons of great things. Plus,
Awesome.
you'll save money on equipment.
All right, so I just copied all the names. DJs, what we did this time is I had everybody type in their name because it's so much easier than doing it the other way around. If you are the winner, I am going to pull you up on our list, and you better be on there. Otherwise, we got to go to the next person. So let's see here real quick. When I call your name, you do need to verify that you are the winner by being on our online thing here. And the first winner, let's see, Tori Myers. Tori Myers, congratulations. Awesome. Tori, if you can please give me your email. We have to verify that you are on the MailChimp. Let's see here. And if you are on there, some people have their info, but for some reason it's not complete, so I've been having to manually put theirs in, so that way if people email you any info, you have it all on there. So Tori Myers, are you still on the chat? Tori Myers. Real quick, while we wait for Tori to respond,
Yeah.
Charles Jewell says his local chapter disbanded. What can they do about that if a member wants to see a local chapter?
Well, he can attend any local chapter in his area or within driving distance. If his local chapter disbanded, we would love to help him rekindle his local chapter. Have him reach out and contact me directly, and we can work on getting his chapter going again. To have a local chapter, it just takes people that are motivated to have a chapter in their market. It's truly a great thing. Every market we've had have chapters in, rates have gone up significantly. When I started coming to Phoenix, average rate for a DJ was $300. Now rates are north of $1,850 to $2,500 average.
All right, so hang on one second. I think Tori just replied. Hold on one second. All right, real quick. Let me check here. Hold on. So, hold on, guys. Don't say congrats yet. We got to make sure she's on the system.
Tori could be a guy.
No, it's a she. Because I
Okay,
saw her.
cool.
I made sure. I don't want to assume anybody's gender.
Well, I played football in high school with a guy named Tori.
Yeah, actually, I had one of my guys, or one of the guys that applied to work for the company. Their name was Tori, and it threw me off because I've always thought it was a girl's name. But then again, Kelly used to be a guy's name, and then I guess it turned into a girl's name. And I know a guy named Ashley too, so that's.
There you go.
All right. Okay, Tori, if you could do me a favor real quick, talk to me on Facebook. I'm going to post my personal or my DJ Facebook, and of course all of you guys can add me. You can also check out ADJA on Facebook by searching ADJA. Is there, because if you search ADA, a bunch of chapters pop up first.
Well, right. What you want to do is go 4 ADJA, the number 4 ADJA, and that'll take you to the national Facebook page.
Awesome. All right. And Tori, if you can please send me a message on Facebook. Hang on one second. Yeah, Tori, I see your name, but your email did not appear on the thing, but that's all right. You're not disqualified. I do see your email or name. That's all that matters. But I do need your email to put you on the list. I'll get you in touch with Dr. Drax, which
Absolutely
is your legal name, too. Somebody asked about that.
Absolutely is.
So, as Facebook now already knows, too. Drax, thank you so much for tuning in. Everybody else, tomorrow, same bat time. Same bat channel. Rest in peace, Adam West. We still have a lot of great prizes to give away tomorrow. We're going to talk about corporate events, a little bit about Mobile Beat. We also have prizes coming up from X Laser, from Global Trust America, from Electro Voice, from Pangolin, Ultimate Ears. There's some incredible prizes coming up. Again, Drax, thank you so much for being on the show.
You're welcome.
My name is Ronaldo Hoffman here at Gear It First. You guys have a great night, and God bless. Let me transition.